There were no actions taken in closed session, however, we did not have quite enough time to finish, so we will be reconvening at the end of the meeting. Special recognitions, that we don't have any tonight. Public comment, do we have any more requests? Is there anybody who wanted to make any comments? Okay, we'll move on to item number 12, which is district updates, and we'll start with business services. She just went to the restroom. Okay, why don't we just go out of order, and we'll move on to educational services. Joshua Porter.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Ellen and TCA, for the invitation for tonight's dinner. That was very kind of you, and it was a very pleasant experience. Get to talk with some of our staff. Our team has been meeting in preparation for our March Professional Development Day. This year's focus is on the understanding and responding to an active threat. Mrs. Getty and Mrs. Gomez have taken a lead on this project, planning a full staff training for all Tcusd employees. There'll be a little bit shared on this a little bit later in tonight's board meeting. But this day will consist of a morning all-staff training and then broken down into the afternoon breakout sessions targeting specific areas of school safety. This spring, our teachers, both at Oak and Temple City High School, will be piloting Study Sync, a curriculum designed by McGraw-Hill. This program is one of two options that are being piloted to support our secondary English language arts programs. Last Friday, a training was held for participating teachers at both Oak and at Oak Middle School for both Oak and the high school teachers. The materials have been delivered to Oak, and they are scheduled for delivery at the high school once it gets closer to their pilot window. Beginning the second week of January, teachers teaching TK through 5 received their final math training expressions from the publisher. This training goes deeper into the online platform of the Think Central and Personal Math Trainer, which allows teachers to use the various online resources, including modifying and differentiating materials for students who may be struggling or need enrichment. It also provided a focus on how to support our English learners. This week, we met with the middle school science team to discuss our district's next steps with the next generation science standards. It has been some time since our last adoption, so we are looking at beginning this process within the next 2 years. Due to the potential costs, we saw our wonders adoption just at the elementary level hit somewhere in the range of $800,000. We're looking at over $1 million for this. We'll need to carefully plan next steps and ensure that all of our stakeholders are included in the district's decision. Our steps with this process are to meet with the high school and elementary schools next. As we begin building out the new website, I do want to give you a quick update on that. We did run into a few unforeseen issues that we'd like to address prior to publishing. We're still transferring and uploading content. We're going to be taking some time, though, to work with each of the school sites and kind of somewhat of a branding. We found that we didn't have a specific school color that everyone would agree, say this is that color, or a color code that would match that. Many logos have been used over the years, and so in an effort to try to capitalize on some of the tradition and some of the common practices, we're going to work with those schools to make sure that what gets posted and transferred over is representative of the school, and we'll try to get that solidified for everybody. And lastly, just kind of there were some formatting issues with coloring, as I've shared before, some of my updates. As we're working toward this new platform, we are also significantly aware, or keenly aware, of the ADA compliance that we want to make sure that we maintain. Some of the color coding associated with that has posed a bit of a problem, so we're working with Temple City High School and got some really good feedback on how we can rearrange some of that color scheme to make sure that we're 100% compliant. So, and we should have a new update for you on the timeline with those transition here within the next week or two. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mary Ann, I'm sorry to skip over you, but we'll go back to you.
I appreciate you skipping. As the board is aware, we went out to bid for a master plan update. All of those proposals were due back to the district at 4 p.m. last Friday. I'm happy to share with you that we received 7 bids for doing that project, so we're going through and reviewing. We have a matrix together to evaluate them, and then we'll come back with 3 suggestions for you, the top 3, and then they'll come and present to you so you can decide which firm you would best like to work with. We're also working on proposals for their facility use. We have 4 people we're expecting to turn bids in. Those are not due for a couple more weeks. And a new law passed on January 1st that rather than 3 levels of pricing, there are now 4. So we'll have more information for you as we get more information and a better understanding that just passed. The last piece is the Measure S bond update. We are very close to finalizing Cloverly and La Rosa. I would anticipate by the middle of February, all punch list items will be complete, and we'll keep you updated on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Personnel Services, Monica Makovich.
Well, I'd like to thank the parents, staff, and students that came out for our second LCAP meeting on January 16th. We worked on the draft of the survey for students and parents, and the next one we'll be working on it is the staff, a survey for the staff. The surveys will be shared with the unions and with the board in the next couple of weeks for final input. The goal is to get the survey out to all stakeholders between February and March. The team also identified top priorities for the LCAP, which we will add to once the surveys are completed. Pupil achievement, pupil engagement, and school climate seem to be the leading three areas at this point in the data collection. Our next LCAP meeting is set for March 12th and will be devoted to drafting goals 1 and 2 based on the identified priorities of achievement, engagement, and climate. I have to thank all the sites for the staff feedback for strategic planning that you did before the holidays. We appreciate all your insights. There's so much, we're trying to compile it for an easy read for the board and for the staff. The next strategic planning meeting for parents in the community is set for February 19th from 5:30 to 7 in the boardroom. It's the second meeting in the series on mission, vision, goals, and Measure S expenditures, but we will also provide curriculum updates and a review of student programs. We are set to start negotiations again with CSEA 23 this Friday, the 24th, and our next TCEA negotiations are February 4th, so looking forward to that. Classified study, we are entering the final round of data collection. The focus interviews will be in February. I will be working with the unions and the advisory teams on setting up those in-person focus interviews. I do have to thank all the classified staff and supervisors. We completed the online survey and the supervisor survey portion of it, and they will be giving us that feedback shortly. Just a reminder, we're in the final months of the teacher evaluation cycle, and I'm working with the staff and principals to get those done by February 1st. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 13, which is our bargaining unit comments. TCEA, Ellen?
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Next is CSEA 105, Robin. Okay. And CSEA 823, Art.
Real quick.
Welcome.
Thank you. Gotta push the button. All right.
You remember to, Art.
All right, well, Marie did show. Did.
us, actually.
She said I had to make, yeah. All right, good evening, board members and the rest of the staff here. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Mark Contreras. I am now elected president of 823, and I am a project facilitator too at the high school. I am looking forward in working with the district on labor-related issues. I feel we are a small district, and building a strong and respectful relationship together is ideal. I had the pleasure to have our first EERC meeting earlier, and feel we got off to a great start. Friday we go to the table, and hopefully we can work together and finalize our collective bargaining agreement and move forward. Thanks again, and hope you have a great meeting.
Thank you. It's nice to have you here, Art.
Thank you.
Item number 14 is our student board member comments. Samuel?
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone celebrated their New Year's well. I don't know about everyone else, but it feels like the decade has passed so quickly. This new year for high school has been met with the stress of finals, but which we're currently in the middle of. Last Wednesday, the high school held its showcase for the incoming freshman class of next year. An assembly was held for them, and after the crew leaders gave them a tour of the school. And they were also exposed to the many co-curricular programs, such as like our woodworking class, foreign language programs, and also the backstage group class. For updates regarding this high school's ASB, we were able to obtain free paper from a local paper drive, and we plan to give away to students holding ASB cards, so that was a really good free paper. Everything free is good. Our winter rally will be next Thursday, followed by the dance concert at the Mission Playhouse, and the theme will be the change. Winter formal will be next Saturday at the Locking Out of Flint Ridge Country Club, and as of now, tickets are sold out, but there is a wait list for students still looking to go to the event, and the theme is Music of the Night, inspired by the Phantom of the Opera. Regarding the school concerns, groups like the Temple City's high school robotics team were inquiring whether the district would help pay for an official advisor. And in addition to this, the robotics team would like to present at the next school board meeting. And that's all for today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Samuel. Next is board member comments, and we'll start with member Espinosa.
I wanted to just wish everyone a happy new year. I hope everyone had a restful and fun winter break. The events that I attended this since our last meeting was the holiday program that was at the high school that involved all of the elementary schools, Oak, and the high school. I also attended the holiday concert at the Mission Playhouse. And I attended a boys varsity soccer game recently. I'm hoping to attend more sporting events, so I'll be looking out for the calendar for those events and try to make some of those games. I remember when I was in high school, I played sports, and so it's always fun to watch. I also wanted to just acknowledge receipt of several postcards from teachers regarding the contract negotiations. The feedback is definitely top of mind, and will be considered in the process. So I just wanted to share that message with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Nolenberg.
I'd like to thank all the people who attended the conference that was here before and just before the closed session, and the ones who stayed for this one. Also, I attended the California School Board Association budget workshop, which was out in Ontario, and had a little booklet and a lot of good information about what the state's going to do with its budget. Also, I'd like to thank all the people who work for the school district, and I also received a series of postcards in 2 waves. They all got, the last delivery was, I think, yesterday. There was three more postcards added to the group that I had, about 7 or 8 from before. Wish to thank everybody for having a happy new year. And I also attended the concert at the Christmas concert at the Mission Playhouse. It was held. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I'll go next. First, I wanted to thank TCEA for the pizza and drinks tonight. Thank you very much. I also want to thank the 7 individuals and groups that made donations to our district. We very much appreciate that. I want to congratulate Lucas Howlett, who is a senior at Temple City High School, and he has signed to play soccer at Occidental College. So that's really exciting. Also, congratulations to Ivan Peng, who committed to playing water polo at the U.S. Naval Academy. And Ivan was the MVP for the San Gabriel Valley All-Star game for water polo. Ivan and Sydney Chang, who is going to be playing water polo at UCLA, will have their signing ceremonies on January 28th at the high school at about 12:15. And so I plan on being there to help celebrate with them. Today I participated in the interviews for the freshman seminar class. It's always great to be able to interact with our students and hear what they have to say, and I'll be back on Friday to do some more interviews. I attended the governor's budget workshop last week, and that was very interesting. I just wanted to make a mention that the dance concert is coming up on January 20th, and it's always a very entertaining show, so if people have not gotten their tickets, you should do so. It's a lot of fun. And finally, I wanted to announce that we are going to be adjourning tonight's meeting in memory of Don Swanson. Don was a teacher at Temple City High School for many years. He passed away in December. He coached with Bob Hitchcock during the 70s when Temple City High School won 7 CIF titles. He was a defensive coordinator, and when Hitchcock retired, he took over as head coach for a few years. He retired in the late 80s. He has a son, Steve Swanson, who is a teacher at Gabrielino High School and is their girls golf coach. He grew up in Hibbing, Minnesota, and he was a quarterback for the University of Minnesota back in the 50s. He was a great person and a brilliant defensive coach. They say he used to spend hours and hours watching film back then. He is also related to Kevin McHale, which is Boston Celtics forward. So we were sad to hear of his passing. And I was wondering if perhaps maybe we could send a little note to his son at Gabrielino High School with a copy of the minutes and let him know that we adjourned in his father's memory. His father made a big impact on a lot of students at Temple City High School. Okay, and then next, Member Lynn.
Thank you, Board President Donna Georgino. Good evening, everybody. I appreciate all the presenters that were at the podium before closed session. Welcome back to year 2020. I had the privilege to attend several evening holiday programs before winter break. And moving forward, for those celebrating Lunar New Year, Happy New Year. It is the year of the rat. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is our superintendent's comments.
Thank you. So as of late, as we've come into this new year, I think that we've had this revitalization of conversations with staff across the district in terms of where we stand curricularly and where we want to go. I think this is a very collaborative conversation. We have met with the math department leads at the high school and at Oak, and we've met with the Oak science staff as well, discussing where the vision of those two programs are, what direction we're wanting to go. And looking more closely with, and I just want to tag on to Dr. Porter and his comments about the science adoption, we want to be very careful about moving forward. We know that this curriculum is essential for our teachers, and I've had the pleasure of talking to elementary teachers and the Oak staff, and so they are very supportive of moving forward with getting some curriculum that is aligned to the Common Core standards in their hands. So we want to make sure that we are very attentive to that need and that we do it very thoroughly. This will be a collaborative format, and most of the adoptions that do come with a heavy load on technology, or is largely supported by technology, so we want to balance that out. And in addition to that, with our science folks, we want to be very careful that they have the equipment to go along with layering in those adoptions or that adopted material. So we, over the next couple of months, we'll be working with sites and principals to make sure that we do a very thorough job looking at all of those aspects and moving that forward. We are looking at looking at some of our providers that we currently have. We currently have an online curriculum provider, and we want to make sure that that is the best fit for our current district, and if it's not, we want to make sure that we are selecting what is best for our district. So we are working with union leadership, thank you very much, for all of the meetings that we've had in developing that vendor fair, so we can review what's currently available based on what we currently have, and then how does that fit our needs. So more information coming in that direction. And lastly, I just want to thank the foundation for their ongoing support. We had a foundation meeting right at the start of the new year, and we did talk about the contributions that they make in the support of our teaching staff. So we just want to thank the foundation for all of their efforts, as well as our PTA. Thank you.
Next is item 17, written communications, and I too received several postcards from staff regarding the salary negotiations. I also received an email from Albert Ramirez, who is the Regional Commissioner of Region 98, AYSO. And he says, as the regional commissioner of the youth sports organization that services more children than all others in Temple City, I would like to request a reduction in fees and a waiver for our use of Oak Field at Oak Intermediate School. We are a nonprofit organization and all involved are volunteers. Thank you for your consideration. In light of the fact that it's going to take a while to get our fee study back, and we do have a board policy that allows us to reduce or waive fees, I was wondering if we could get this on the next agenda along with the request we got tonight from Ramrodders. Thank you. And finally, I apologize, this is a little lengthy, but we got a response from the Los Angeles County Office of Education regarding our first interim report, and it says, Dear Mr. Gino, under Education Code Section 42131, the Los Angeles County Superintendent of Schools has completed our review of the Temple City Unified School District's 2019-20 first interim report. Our analysis of the data provided indicates that the district should be able to meet its financial obligations for the current fiscal year and subsequent 2 fiscal years. We therefore concur with the district's positive certification and offer our comments below. The district is projecting an operating deficit of $1.32 million, representing 2.63% of the district's unrestricted general fund projected expenditures and other outgo for fiscal year 2019-20. The district is also projecting operating deficits of $1.55 million and $1.34 million, representing 3.02% and 2.57% for the 2021 and 21-22 respectively. According to our review of the district's first interim report data and assumptions, and as confirmed by the district, these projected deficits are primarily due to declining enrollment, spending down a prior year carryover, and increases in restricted program contributions. While the district projects it will maintain the required level of reserves, this level of deficit spending should be recognized and monitored so that it remains manageable. The district's 2019-20 first interim report reflects declining enrollment with projected average daily attendance of 5,512 for 2019-20 and 5,427 for 2021 and 21-22. The estimated impact of the declining enrollment on the district's projected ADA reflects a 1-year loss totaling 85 ADA, representing a 1.54% decrease from the district's 2019-20 ADA. This rate of decline in enrollment, if continued as projected, represents a loss of revenue for the district in the current and future years. We recommend that the district continue to assess and adjust its staffing needs and facilities planning for upcoming years based on the projected rate of decline in enrollment. According to the information provided in the district's first interim report, certificated and classified labor contract negotiations for 2019-20 remained unsettled, and potential changes have not been calculated and incorporated into projected salary and benefit expenditures. This letter is a reminder that before the district's Board of Education takes any action on a proposed collective bargaining agreement, the district must meet the public disclosure requirements of Government Code Section 3547.5 and the California Code of Regulations Title 5, Section 15449. The document used for this analysis is included in Information Bulletin Number 5030 dated July 12, 2019, and is titled 2019-20 Forms for Assembly Bill 1200, Public Disclosure of Proposed Collective Bargaining Agreements. This document can be found at the following website. Thank you for providing documentation that supports the district's positive certification. The multi-year projections with narrative and assumptions were helpful in our analysis of the 2019-20 first interim report and in verifying the district's financial condition. The information provided reflects the district's financial position and assumptions as of October 31st, 2019, and further adjustments will be made during the year as additional data becomes available. We hope these comments are helpful to the district's administration and board as you plan for the remainder of 2019-20 and develop your projections for 2021 and 21-22. We express our appreciation to the district staff for their cooperation during the review of the 2019-20 first interim report. If our office may be of any further assistance, please call me. So if anybody would like a copy of this letter, I'm sure our staff would be happy to get it for them. Okay, and that's all I have for written communications. We'll move on to item 18, which is discussion of a new position for Director of Enterprise.
Thank you, Donna. So before I speak up the proposal for Director of Enterprise, I would like to give the background information first. Why this proposal? We have a current need for a Director of Enterprise to plan, organize, implement, and direct the district enterprise accounts, which include any community partnership, preschool, enrichment, and before school and after school care and camps. Given the current fiscal climate, this position will help provide leadership and management to generate additional revenue for Temple City Unified School District. Another important part is that our current preschool program is comprised of special education students ranging from ages 3 to 5 years. This is a Individuals with Disabilities Act mandated program through the Special Education Local Plan area. Our district was notified of being in program and review status due in part to lack of inclusion for preschool students. PIR status includes the current preschool program because we do not have a general education preschool program. We need to provide a solution for preschool inclusion by adding a general education preschool program. This could be a revenue generator opportunity over time. We are currently researching current preschool programs. We'll be bringing those to a proposal to the board in the next few months.
Are the free preschool programs funded by anybody?
Our special education program is yes.
Outside of the regular funding you get?
It's right now it's under SELPA. It's a mandated SELPA program.
So whatever money we get, do we get enough money from SOFA to cover the cost of this?
No, I can get you exact amounts with Mary Ann and get them back, but no. But the regular preschool would generate revenue, potential revenue, because that would be a cost to parents.
Is this a certificated position or classified?
Well, it's a child care credential, which is a little different. We can discuss that, or wait, are you asking for the preschool position or this one?
The director of
This one is a classified director position.
Okay.
Sorry. And I will get to the qualifications at the end, I promise. So responsibilities include organizing and planning building the business plans, making sure communication goes out to all staff, making sure we coordinate grant applications, any proposals, maintaining a donor database, working on capital campaigns, business partnerships to support the sites and the students, works on the CTE program, governance structure of all site booster clubs, help plan and management all district fundraisers, and then just supervise any employee that's involved in the enterprise under the Director of Enterprise. Job requirements, getting back to my question, a bachelor's degree in business is required, at least 5 years of experience in enterprise business field and or fundraising, experience working in schools that provide after school and enrichment programs, obviously developing and management budgets, and experience in funding, capital campaign, and school programs. Fiscal impact, we will pull from general fund and CTE until we can determine revenue. The salary range for classified directors for our district ranges from about 136 to 154. That is not including health and welfare benefits. No, that was short, but we will take questions.
Are there any questions?
Yes, I have comments and questions.
Sure.
How are these duties, or any of these duties being covered currently?
Right now, my department oversees the ELP program, and special ed oversees preschool. But we do not have a current general ed preschool, so that would be a new program.
Okay, and I think as I reviewed the job description, it seemed really heavy on finance and business aspects of that. It was that type of work, which I feel like fits under the CBO.
Okay.
I think that there's then additional duties that just don't fit the skill set of a person that we want to be doing capital campaigns and all of the fiscal stuff. It just seems like a very mismatched set of responsibilities. And at that level of salary, I think we should be able to find a way to maybe reanalyze the CBO job description and figure out what we can add, because they are in line. And I've looked at other CBO job descriptions in other districts, and most of this feels like to me could fall under that job description. So I think we need to reevaluate our CBO job description versus hiring somebody with this kind of a job description and at that salary level.
We can definitely look at our current roles, responsibilities across the district office. That's always something that we do in any case for evaluation, through the evaluation process. With regard to enterprise accounts, they're really running many businesses. If we look at our preschool program with the need for inclusion, running, managing, operating, and overseeing a preschool would be something of a large task, especially to get that off of the ground and up into operation and production, should the board decide that this would be an area where we would want to look for a possible revenue stream coming into the district and maximizing that opportunity for our families who are needing childcare, especially at the preschool level. So that would just be something for the board to consider. In addition, there is the ELP program that is sitting on our current schedule or offering, and we do want to provide childcare opportunities for that enrichment program, that ELP program. We also want to provide different coursework for students who have different enrichment opportunities. That would also be in an expansive nature of what we currently offer. There are grant funds that we do write for. Some of them are coming from CTE, the adult school, possibly other areas that could partially fund this salary. So the salary would not totally be coming out of the general fund account. We want to give you the upper estimate of what that would be so the board can consider the upper limit of option. But again, all of that information will be forthcoming and built out in the months to come.
Yeah, I think some of your comments that relate to the depth of the different programs that we're looking at, I think they're multifaceted, and I think that, you know, there's a business aspect to those topics and those programs that we're looking at, and then there's the more the certificated side of it, you know, the expertise that requires a certificated person. I think that we can somehow manage if we had the proper job description in place for our CBO and partnering with the other administrators on the cabinet, we could probably come up with something. Or at least find roles that are less costly to us to be able to, you know, meet the demands of what we're looking at. Those are just my thoughts.
Any other questions or comments?
Will we make a profit for this person?
The whole premise of the position is to create enterprise accounts, which is the one area of the district where you can bring revenue in addition to what we already currently have coming in. And it is to cover their salary and bring in additional revenue to cover some of our programmatic needs across the district. We have not built out the scope of these programs. This is our first discussion information in front of the board to present this information for consideration. Those programs will be outlined. This position isn't to start at any current time frame. We will be bringing the preschool proposal. We will be bringing those other proposals for the board to consider moving forward. Giving action, we will have to have someone to kind of oversee and guide those business plans as you approve them.
But Member Nolenberg, the proposal, the discussion tonight is proposing to hire a new full-time FTE, a new FTE, which means it's a cost, not a profit.
Good question. We're looking at CT possibly not a revenue generating role, but the preschool is the revenue generating function, right?
Well, yes and no. CTE is largely in part funded from our district and our general fund. We do write for different CTE grants annually, and having someone in charge of those grants and continuing to keep that amount of grant money in would keep and sustain those programs. So really what we're thinking is how do we create long-term sustainability for current programs that we do have, for an area where we're going to need to provide inclusion for our preschool program, and that would be the preschool, the gen ed preschool side of that. And also to look at any other facet where we do write grants, and that would be also for our adult school, again, bringing generating revenue into the district to sustain those programs and in fact grow those programs. Some of the grants, there's a large untapped possibility. We would want to make sure that we are writing for those to the greatest extent possible and looking at every source possible to bring in money into the district. And that would be our ultimate goal. And this item is just discussion information tonight. There is no action. But it is for the board's consideration as we want to make that as collaborative as possible and transparent as possible before we roll down any of these other areas. If we don't have a member to or staff member to oversee some of these programs as they grow or as they are put into place, then we would probably alter the proposals of those programs moving forward.
And I don't get me wrong, I think I'm all for, having someone that's, dedicated to grant writing and finding opportunities for, funding programs. I just don't think we need a whole director of enterprise to do it.
Another quick question. Is preschool 250 days?
The general ed preschool would match our current schedule of preschool. So it'd be 180 days.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. And the next item is item 19, discussion on committee for dedication of additional bleachers at Temple City High School baseball field and donation from Booster Group. Maria, are you going to speak on this?
So Rob Nelson, who's the varsity baseball coach, approached me and said that the grandmothers would like to make a donation toward additional bleachers and would also like to dedicate those bleachers to the Mr. Mark part that was discussed earlier. So based on board policy for dedications of space, the first step we need to do is form a committee. I was hoping the board might have some suggestions for people for the committee.
I have some suggestions. First, there was a couple Matt Smith made, Jerry Lawrence and Ryan Hogue. I don't know if he's contacted those people. I also have Ann Sides, Anna Adami, Barry Bacon, Mylan Marakich, and Tom O'Leary, and they've all been contacted and willing to do it.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any suggestions?
I did, Dawn Duhamel, she's part of PTA, and so that's one I would suggest.
I have her contact information, thank you.
Okay, good.
Any other ones? Okay. I'll just add, for the audience, that the board policy process that we have to go through is to appoint a committee to review the naming request. And because the people involved in this are hoping to be able to do it February 15th, we're trying to fast track this. So they hopefully will be meeting very soon and bring us a recommendation at our next meeting, which is February 12th, where we will have a public hearing and make a final decision. So that's the process that we're going through. Does anybody have any questions? Yes?
Is the booster group, I get, or whatever group is, whatever name it, are they gonna pay for just the stands themselves, or do they pay for the maintenance also?
I believe just the stands.
They've raised a little over $11,300 toward the stand, and they've drafted a letter they'll be sending to the board for that donation.
They
Did you
came
get it
tonight.
tonight? Okay, perfect.
Taylor brought it tonight.
Is there such thing as maintenance for stands?
I don't know.
No.
Well, my understanding is newer stands require less maintenance.
There are already stands out there anyways. I don't think that that'll be an issue.
The rating.
Thank
They're
you.
ADA compliant too.
Any other questions? Okay, so do you have enough names for the committee?
I do, will reach out tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We'll move on to item 20, which is the review of Williams complaints quarterly summary for October 1st through December 31st, 2019.
None to report.
None to report, that's always good news. Okay, next we'll move on to discussion and action items. Item number 21 is received for second reading and approved revised board policy. It's board policy 9320, meetings and notices. And Dr. Kirby, you want to give an overview of that?
The second reading?
Yeah, it's the second reading, just for the audience so they know what we're talking about.
Thank you.
So the changes, generally only when one regular meeting is held in January, April, July, August, November, and December. Meetings in January, April, July, August will be the fourth Wednesday of the month. And the meetings in November and December will be the first Wednesday of the month. So these just outline more specifically when we only have one board meeting, which meeting that they will fall on. And that's how we will set that's how we set the board meeting schedule. So we adopted this or adjusted this for those holiday one meeting schedules.
So we're just making it official in our board bylaws. Anybody have any questions about that? Okay, would someone like to make a motion? Oh, yeah, go ahead, please.
I'll
Someone
make the motion.
Okay, motion by member Nolenberg,
Second.
second by member Lynn, and then I'll have our student board member vote first.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye, yes, okay, it's an affirmative. And, okay, and for the rest of the board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes 4-0. And one for our preferential vote for our student board member. Next is item number 22, discussion and action regarding the Mission Playhouse rental for the spring musical.
Okay, so this item is up for consideration. It's in alignment with the other contracts that we have approved for the dance and for the holiday performance. This would be the rental agreement for the district to sign for the spring musical.
Someone like to make a motion?
All motion.
Okay, motion by member Espinosa,
Second.
second by member Lynn. Okay, are there any questions or discussion?
Yes, I have some questions.
Sure.
I know we're talking about the Mission Playhouse for the spring musical, but I wanted to get a sense of what in the event there is this contract, how are any kind of proceeds or profits from ticket sales being handled? Are they being given back to the program, or are they being kept by the district to offset cost?
Well, it is my understanding that not all of the ticket sales go through the Mission Playhouse, so I couldn't answer where the ticket sales go for the ticket sales not affiliated with the Mission Playhouse. And we have not received the final billing from the Playhouse to understand the itemized costing or ticket sales component of that. So I at this time, I couldn't answer that question for you. As soon as we get that billing or that, those charged, and you can see where the fees are associated, where the ticket sales or the revenue, so to speak, is associated, then I will be able to answer that.
Well, I think I'm asking just, more, kind of, I'm asking at a higher level, like, is the intent to give back the profits to the program, or is the intent, if there are profits left over after expenses, is the intention of the district to keep that money to offset the cost, or is the intention to give it back to the program? I'm not asking about what has happened with with other, with the holiday program. I'm just asking for your philosophy on this topic.
That would be a board decision, so you would need to take action on where those financial gains or revenues go.
The way I'm reading this is that this is a cost sharing agenda item as opposed to a revenue sharing agenda item.
Correct.
So meaning that all monies that come in would be given back to the program.
Well, I don't understand it that way.
Okay.
But I think we need more information to be able to make that particular decision, because if the credit card sales are offsetting the expense of the rental of the playhouse, and we can recoup some of the money that we spend on it, I think we should do that. But we don't know if that's even happening, because we haven't gotten a financial report from the holiday concert to see how that all played out.
Yeah, and I think go ahead.
I just was gonna say, I don't wanna commit to just, $25,000, because we have other needs too in the district. We just sat here with a load of teachers who wanna get a pay increase, so I don't wanna, just allocate $25,000 just for the heck of it. I wanna know that it's actually needed to cover expenses.
And this item only discusses the rental of the facility. It's the contract rental of the facility, which was the last item that was approved as well. And the sharing comes from the idea that there would be partial sharing from the foundation, but that was the only thing under consideration under the last agreement, and that's the only thing that's really under consideration for this discussion and ultimately, action of the board.
Do we have a financial report at all on any of the groups?
We do not.
Any of the three groups?
The booster groups, are you referring to the?
Yeah, the three groups that are listed here, for the holiday dance and the music.
We do not.
The dance concert hasn't happened yet, but the holiday performance did, but we don't have that yet.
I think the lengthy conversations that we've had on this topic led me to believe that us taking the contract was to alleviate the cost of the use of facilities that we need in order to, produce these events, not that we would offset that by anything. So I guess that was my understanding. So, is it possible for us in this contract situation to simply contract for the days that are non-performance days, so just the rehearsal days? Can we just contract for rehearsal days? And then the program can take care of, the whatever boosters or whatever can figure out how they're gonna handle performance days.
the current contract that we have from the Mission Playhouse is not currently written that way, and we didn't know to request it that way either,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's new. I'm
Right.
just proposing it today, but could we, go that route?
We can ask them if they can provide the contract segmented. The only thing I can say, to kind of round out a different conversation, the meeting that I had with the foundation financial advisor was asking me for the billing with those reductions in them. I told her at that time the same thing I'm telling the board now. We don't have that final outcome of how it's all divided and where things are either credited or expended to us, so I couldn't give her that information, and I don't have it.
Yeah, I think it would be cleaner if we just, the district takes on rehearsal days and, the program figures out how they can, through the booster clubs or their nonprofits, how they can manage on performance days.
I think the issue, as I understood it, was that, who's gonna sign the contract? I think that was our initial discussion was, and the reason I voted to sign the contract is because we cannot have our high school staff signing it or ASB. If the booster clubs didn't wanna sign it and be responsible for it, so we were left with the responsibility of signing for it. And if we're gonna sign for it, then we're taking responsibility for it. Even when I spoke with Kim the other day, I am interested in knowing how is this all playing out financially, but since we don't have that information at this time, I would prefer just to approve it, with us signing it for the entire time, because the musical's just right around the corner, and we need to get committed.
Yeah, and I think, is there the possibility to hear from some of the program folks to see if they've already figured that out? Or if that would be a hardship for them?
Well,
In terms of
If you
talking,
split it.
yeah, talking to Elias, first of all, he, who's the San Gabriel Civic manager, he can rewrite that contract, whatever works best, as decided by the board. If we rewrite it so that the boosters and those groups are taking on part of it, whether it's the performance side of it or the rehearsals, and the district takes on the cost of whatever the other one is, whether it's rehearsals or the performances. He said that can be divided up so that it's equitable in terms of days and dress rehearsals versus regular rehearsals, because they're there about 10 days in the auditorium. So there's some flexibility with that. He can have that rewritten rather expeditiously.
Can I just ask, who would sign the second contract?
Well, I would assume it would be, if it's the boosters this year, and we're just talking about this year, since we're already in discussion with the schools foundation, it probably would be suggested that they sign that half, and then of course the school district sign the other half. Because ASB, we've already established we don't want to have it signed by, the high school.
It would be less of a cost to us and less of a liability to us to just do rehearsal days. And if the foundation or the boosters are open to having it set up that way, I think we should agree to that. If
We've
it's possible.
been talking about this for months, and I have not seen the booster club come up here and say, we're gonna take responsibility for it. And that's my concern at this point. If we put it off until February 12th, we're getting down to a month before the musical,
Yeah.
not having the contract signed.
How about if we make a motion for that option as option one, and if that's not feasible, then go to option two, which is just a signable contract. That would cover us, and that would.
But I don't understand what option one would be.
Option one would be our first option would be to see if we can arrange for the contract to be split, and if it can't be split, and we've got agreement from either the foundation or the boosters to take the other half, then we go that route. If we can't get that agreement, then we go with just signing the whole contract for the whole period of time as option
I
2.
guess my response was, they've had plenty of time to come up here and tell us they want to take responsibility for part of it. I just, at this late time, I just feel really uncomfortable doing that. I think we're just creating more problems for our staff and for Matt, and what if it doesn't work out? I think at this point,
Again, if it doesn't work with what I'm proposing tonight, then they can go with the original plan. I don't see a downside to just having the options available. Yeah, it's gonna take a little bit of time, but we can, I think we can quickly get to an answer about option 1 if it's something that the foundation is open to, which I believe that they are.
Kim just met with them last week, and they
The
expressed
Performing
that
Arts
to
Boosters or the foundation? Okay. So we still haven't reached out to the Performing Arts Boosters yet, right?
Well, we've only reached out to the Performing Arts Boosters. We were told that they were not willing to sign the contracts, which is why the conversation started, which is why we signed the 2 prior contracts, from my understanding. I've not heard that they are willing to take on the liability of signing on the contract, so I don't know that for sure or not. In talking with the foundation, they were expecting us to provide not the contracted amount for billing, but the actual billed amount, so that they know what their expenditure could possibly be, and that's,
I think it's
those are the
cleaner
areas
for
where I
them.
left it.
Yeah.
This option is cleaner for them because they'll get their bill directly. We won't have to be figuring out what's the portion of this
So you're
foundation.
proposing we sign a contract to take on the full liability of that contract?
No, I said, option 1 is split the contract so that the foundation or the Performing Arts Boosters has one portion of it, we have the other. They deal with their half, we deal with ours.
Do we deal with ours with the foundation, or we just deal with ours in total by ourselves?
Well, it's not gonna be for the full amount, it's gonna be for like a half, but yes, whatever we sign is what we're committing to, which is not different than the half that we agreed to go in on with the foundation.
So we're gonna get a financial report at least of this year.
It's just cleaner.
Yeah, we're gonna
it
get-
doesn't feel clean to me.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
understand financial. I don't know if salaries are included or not. You getting a salary, right?
We're just
Oh, you're
talking
just talking
about
about the building.
facility itself and who gets into the contract. And all I'm saying is, yes, let's proceed with signing the contract, but I'm just asking if we can consider splitting it into 2 separate contracts. So all we are responsible for are the non-performance days and the rest is handled by a booster. If it's not an option, then just take on the full contract as we previously discussed.
Okay. I guess my question is why, if the Booster Club is willing to do that, why aren't they here telling us that they're willing to do it?
If I can address that, because I met with the boosters last week, and just for clarification, according to the Performing Arts Boosters, they've never been approached about taking on the cost of this year of the auditorium. It's all been the Schools Foundation has been the only organization that has been discussed directly about whether they could take it on or not take it on, and we've already had those conversations. And in last week's meeting, in talking about, Mary Ann and I had met and talked about the long range next year, how could this look and whatnot. And the boosters are starting to have discussions about how in the future they would be the producing entity of some of these big productions, with the exception of the Playhouse, the auditorium, because that's such a big ticket, and we kind of talked about, down the road here, having conversations about how we can if the district can pick up that, take on that responsibility, or a portion of that responsibility, for the future. But in terms of this year, and so that discussion last week was about the boosters entering into taking on the various production costs of next year's productions. For this year, the performing arts boosters have not been involved in the discussion at all about funding any of the current programs, the Christmas concert, dance concert, or this year's musical Newsies, with the exception of what they normally do. And part of that discussion was because in Marianne and I talking about, okay, what's the best way to go through this year and setting up things for next year. The discussion was, let's do what we normally do with a dialogue of what we're doing, and obviously anything that involves a contract, it's coming to Marianne. I'm taking it, or Mike is taking it to Marianne for her review and signature, anything upcoming. And then all the other various items from costuming or of the other things that go on to the production will be handled like they normally do it. So, but in terms of actually taking things on for this year, the performing arts boosters have not been a part of any of that discussion. And they said they have not been approached by anybody about that, other than my discussion with them. So.
And just to answer that, we've had conversation, you, myself, and Marianne,
Yeah.
regarding the booster, which you were at that time representing, in terms of speaking with us. We didn't approach the booster club in terms of, asking them to take on the contract. We asked that question through you, of which you said that they were not willing to take on that contract at this time. So I wouldn't have known to ask them directly to take on the contract, because the information I had received from you was that they were not willing to take on that liability.
Right.
Which, I understand the liability aspect of that.
Right.
And they're very familiar. So at this time, we have an item on the table for vote of the board. We can't change the item as is written in order to take the vote. You can amend a vote, but you can't change the item. I wouldn't be able to break down the financials in terms of the cost of breaking it out, because we don't have a contract pulled in that manner. You can table this for next time for us to pull it in that manner. You can vote, but you have to vote on this item currently.
It says discussion and action, Mission Playhouse rental. It doesn't say how it is. So we just have to vote, are we going to enter into a contract or not? And I'm saying, yeah, we can vote that, but can we direct and amend it in terms of how it's done? We're not changing the motion. We're just directing how it's done.
Okay. Any other questions or
If
comments? Yes.
we're going to amend the motion, then why don't we ask for the financials for this year, at least for this year, and probably for the last 2 or 3 years? So we can tell what is actual cost to rent the playhouse and how much money is going to
Yeah, I agree. I just feel like this is kind of the,
Yeah, but I
like
think-
a late time to be doing that. That's why I would rather not amend the motion and just go with it as it is for this year. And we can get all that financial information for next year and be able to make a more informed decision.
I would want to amend it just to show, and it's not to change this, it's just to provide direction to the superintendent on how to approach the rental. I don't think it requires financials. In fact, it's going to be less of a financial obligation and less of a liability, because we don't have to worry about performance days.
Well,
Cost went up, what was it, 50,000 before, or 50-some plus, I forgot the exact number.
That's for
And
the
now it's-
full time, that's for the whole 10 days.
Yeah, now it's 60.
It's gonna be, we're not gonna be entering into a contract for all of the days, it's gonna be less days. So it'll be a lesser contract, with lesser days.
Because we're five one contract.
We have a motion on the table. I think in the interest of time, and not just time for tonight, but in the interest of getting this processed and not delay the events, we go ahead, process this as a one-time, right, as it's written for this school year, and then create another agenda item for a future board meeting to look at your idea.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, any other comments or questions?
I still think we need a financial statement for
I
this
agree.
year, for this year.
I agree, but I think we need to approve this now as it's presented to us.
I think that they intentionally put this in there. I think everything is intentional, that they put us, in a sense, on a lot. We have to approve it or not approve it.
I don't know, but I'm not going to not approve it and not have a musical. This is important to our children and our community, so I think we need to do something to make it happen this year, and then we can go into more detail for next year.
This buys us some time.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It
It's a
does.
one-time kind of deal, right?
We only had, this was only supposed to be for 1 year.
Right, that's what the way it's written.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, it's just for this year.
And then we could explore ideas like the one that.
Well- I'm just wondering, why is it that the superintendent can't just enter into the contract and look at it those two ways and have the authority to decide how it should be done once she looks into it? Why is that a problem?
For me, it's
What
a,
if the third party says no?
yeah, for me, it's a problem because they're not here tonight to say they're willing to do it. If they say no, or even if they say yes, you know, how long is it gonna take to negotiate that agreement with them? I don't know. I guess the other issue is, you know, if Newsies is a revenue generator, why should the district be the only one that has to bear the cost of it? Why shouldn't we be getting reimbursed for some of the profit that's made off of it?
I'm really opposed to taking from the program, because it's just used to fund and start up the next year. And by the district taking the money, it's taking away from the program the following year. So that's why I'm opposed to us utilizing any profits that are made to keep. It's not a revenue generating.
But in
It shouldn't be.
essence, we would just be giving a donation to the booster groups is what we're doing if we allow them to keep all the profits and we don't get reimbursed for our expenses. You know,
And that's
Yeah.
again, defining a financial report?
right. So we need to see that. Again, we just had Samuel mention how the robotics team wants an advisor. We have teachers here who want raises. If we have to fund it, if there's a deficit and they need money, I'm more than willing to do that, but don't wanna fund it if someone else is making a profit on it and we aren't getting reimbursed for our expenses.
No one's making a profit, it's going back into the program. I think that's what people are not understanding.
Well, I don't know because we don't have a financial report and
But I think we should have some trust in the people that are running the program, that they're not using the funds for anything other than funding the program the following year.
I don't know because we don't have a financial report,
The
so.
financial report would state, or should state, how much money they need for next year.
Okay, we're only talking about this year. That's
Right,
it.
just this year. And
That's
then-
all.
Well, they should say how much they needed this year.
So I for one trust the program. I for one think it's a fantastic program for our kids and community. It is a one-time stopgap. It's gonna get us some time to deliberate a little bit more, brainstorm other ideas. I think I'm ready for a vote.
Any further question? Okay, Okay,
I have a quick question.
Yes,
Do
sure,
we know
Sam.
when the financial report will come, or is it a total, like, we don't know when?
well, I was hoping we were gonna have it like 2 or 3 months ago, but I haven't seen anything.
There was, and I have not seen it being presented to us, but a budget is available and prepared, and we've never seen it. So, you know, I don't know, I just feel like, I would want to vote on this with my additional amendment. Because I don't think that and we're not changing it, we're all agreeing that we should sign it, and I agree completely, 100%. It should be signed, but I don't see why there's hesitation. Is it because is it because we're afraid we're gonna miss out on some profits? Because
No, I'm not thinking of us making any money off of this. I'm thinking of us getting reimbursed for some of our expenses.
But see, I think that maybe the foundation of why we're signing the contract to alleviate the cost of the facility to that program is maybe we all look at that, the reason for signing the contract differently.
Yeah, I think that could
Maybe
be.
that's what it is.
Yeah. Melissa, you're more than welcome if you want to amend your motion and see if Mark will agree to it, the amendment, but.
Okay. I mean, I want to put it on the record at least. So, I would like to, motion that the district sign the Mission Playhouse contract rental, with 2 stipulations. One, option 1 would be first pursue whether or not the district can enter into a contract for non-performance days only.
Rental.
Yeah, non-performance days only for the rental of the facility, and look into whether the foundation or the performing arts boosters will take the other days. If that is not an option, then option 2 would just be to enter into the contract for the full number of days that are needed for the performance.
Is that acceptable to you, that amendment?
As long as it's compliant to what we have already voted on in the past. If it's not compliant, then I guess let's.
What do you mean by compliance?
Because if we have already committed to 25,000, the number was already written, I think, but we never committed to that in the past.
Just enter into the contract with what we can do.
Right, I'll second the motion.
Okay. All right, Samuel, how would you vote on that?
I'll abstain.
Let's see. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm opposed.
No,
Okay,
I'm
so we,
abstaining, because I don't see a financial report. And this is taxpayer money.
okay, Ken, if
Give
you
it away.
abstain, then the motion is approved. If you vote no, then it's a tie.
Okay, I don't know.
Okay. All right, so we have a tie, 2-2. Someone like to submit an addition, different motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Can you speak in the microphone? Thank you. I make a motion that we ask for a financial report first before we make a decision on this. And a financial report can go back 3 or 4 years, or 3 years at least, and maybe more, or it can be this current year.
Ken, it sounded like you wanted to abstain because you don't have the information, so.
Okay, hold on. Is there a second to that? Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. Okay, would someone like to make an additional motion?
I would like to make the motion to pass this agenda item as written.
Okay, I'll second that. All right, now is there discussion? Questions?
How much are we giving now? We're giving
We're not giving anything specific. We're entering into the agreement for the Mission Playhouse. Well, they're going to sign the contract, and we're not gonna find out until a later date if there's a cost to us, but,
We don't
I don't like
understand.
the thing of unknowns.
right,
We should know what our dollar values are right now. Did we vote on something?
It's just imagine this, there's a lot of transactions that are done by the Booster Club, my understanding is, and then this wasn't done by the district then. That takes a lot of staff effort to get that information, so it does take time. I mean, I made a motion because I trust that this is gonna happen. We're gonna see something based on whatever that's available that's gonna be presented to the superintendent, and the superintendent will share with us when it's available.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll take a vote on the new motion. Samuel?
I will once again abstain.
Okay, Samuel abstains. Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, so we have two ties.
Let's move on, let's table this and move on.
Well,
Is that the
we
motion?
can't. All right, if we table it, then we have no contract for the Mission
How
Playhouse.
does the tie work in the rules?
The tie is, the motion doesn't pass, it's not approved, so unless someone can come up with another motion that's agreeable to at least 3 people, we have no contract with the Mission Playhouse.
I really just don't see a downside to doing my amended vote, my amended motion. There is no downside. We're gonna enter into a contract. We are gonna potentially have, the whole thing under the district, but there's a chance that we won't have to do that. I don't see that as a downside. I don't see that as something bad.
Someone have a motion they'd like to make? Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the district signing the contract for the Mission Playhouse and that we request a financial report for our next meeting. Does anyone want to second that?
Second.
Okay.
What year is the financial report going to come?
It'll have to be either last year or
This year.
It could be the current year, whatever the financials are this year.
And it should be, the financial report should be both the budget and income and expenses.
That would be correct.
All right, I do have a question. If the district's intent is to enter into a full contract, but the foundation came forward and went to the Mission Playhouse and said, we want to cover these days, then is that, that's outside of our purview, and they have the ability and right to do that, right?
no, but they can give us the money to cover it, the cost.
So they don't have the right to go to the Mission Playhouse and say, we want to cover X number of days from
Well, if
from
we
this
have the
performance?
contract, I don't think so.
Well, we would be signing the current, you would be authorizing us to sign the current contract that we have.
Understood, but if the foundation went to the Playhouse and said, we would like to take the responsibility of X number of days, and the Mission Playhouse revised the contracts,
Then our contract,
It'd have to come back to the board.
yeah, it would have to come back to the board and I don't know that they could render our contract null and void if we enter into contract with them, because it'd be a breach of contract.
do you have the contract currently?
Yes.
Yes, we do. Well, we have the current contract as written for just the final performance and the days associated with that. So we have it just for the musical and the days associated with the musical.
Okay, so we do have that contract.
Yes.
I don't know if this would help. I'm just texting Elias just to see if he has the current projected budget for this year's musical for the auditorium rental is $40,000. That's that's an inflated price, just similar to the Christmas show. It was $9,000, which the board paid, and then it actually was 7 something or whatever. So, the projected budget for the auditorium for this year's show is 40,000. It won't be that much, but, that's what it's projected
I
at.
think,
terms of
correct me if
budget.
I'm wrong, but I think what you were looking at was a financial report with all expenses and all revenues
For the production.
for the production. So I think
Okay.
that's what. Ken was
Not
looking
just the
at.
contract and the proposed contracted amount, not to exceed.
Right. So, and we have, we have the Newsies budget that we are currently operating under. So I'm assuming that's something
That would be helpful too.
would be helpful.
That's-
Okay.
That's what's frustrating, is that that's been available and it's never been presented to us.
We've never received that information, and we have asked the booster clubs, we've asked Matt for past financials of past
Right.
performances to predict the future performance, and we haven't, to my knowledge,
No,
received
what
that.
I'm saying is the budget, which is what we just talked about, that has been available and has not been presented to the board.
I think, but what my understanding of what Mr. Nolenberg was asking for is the budget and expenditures. So as those budget items, line items become actual expenditures, that is the report that I'm assuming he's asking for.
So Matt, your budget, your information, or the financials are not within Marianne Sachs' reports, right?
No.
See, that's
Well,
the-
we've sent that over. You're talking about this year's budget?
He's asking if it's in SACs, which it is not.
This is, we get audited, we have to go through that whole process. It is, so your books are separate from the district's books, and this is
Mhm.
what I meant by the compliance piece and the time piece. It takes a long time to bring all that into the fold and apply standard accounting procedures that the state requires. It's not an easy process, and also it's not just a money aspect, there's also an HR aspect. We may have contracts with other entities that may have conflict of interest, and there's an HR component if it's not as easy as just this amount. So I agree with Donna that we're gonna confound this a lot if we get into this without considering the universe of compliance. Not just from the CBO domain, but from the HR and also from any of the contracts that Matt, you have, or through the booster clubs that we don't know about, right?
So we have a motion and a second to approve the contract with the Mission Playhouse and to have a financial report by the next meeting. So, ready to take a vote on that?
The financial report concludes the income, and different sources of income, and the different expenses.
Okay. Yes.
So just for point of clarification, the musical, we won't be able to give you actual expenses, of course, at the next meeting because it hasn't happened yet. For the holiday concert, I know it's in the mail to me what the revenue was, and I've got some information from ASB. That shouldn't be a problem, and hopefully the dance concert also could come to the next meeting. But the detailed actual expenses for the musical wouldn't be able to be presented.
Maybe we can get last year's,
Mhm.
so we have it, so.
What I can get, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. All right, so our student board member, how would you like to vote on this one?
Yes.
Let me guess.
No, I'll say yes.
You want to vote yes? Okay, great. Okay. All in favor from the board, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Because I don't see a financial report coming from them. They had ample time to give us a whole package when they asked for the money. And we didn't get it.
Okay, can we get it by the next meeting? Would that be satisfactory?
So let's vote next meeting and get it.
Well, I think that's too late. They need to get the contract signed for the Mission Playhouse. And
This is terrible, I'm sorry, but, what other motion can I make? I mean, I feel like let's approve the Playhouse, contract, with the projected budget that is available, okay, with the projected budget, so it's not gonna be actuals, it's gonna be a projected budget because those folks know what the expenses are, they've been doing it long enough. So approve the contract with the proposed budget.
The proposed budget for
The
the whole.
proposed, no, the proposed
Budget for
Newsies
the whole-
budget,
whole-
Newsies budget.
Yeah, for the whole production.
For the whole production. With the option to be able to split it. Split the contract if, the boosters wanna take it.
Okay, is there a second? All right, motion dies for lack of a second.
I think we would have to clarify how we want to split the contract, because technically, you'd have to render the first contract null and void, and you would have to then enter into the second contract. So,
Well, that's, like I said, it was, my first motion was to amend it so that we had the flexibility to do either, enter into a new contract that was half the number of days that we were originally going to enter into, or if that was not feasible, to just enter into the current contract that we have. That was my motion, is with options, and I'm not clear why that was a problematic motion for some. If I could understand why, then it would help me, come up with a motion that would be agreeable to us, to all.
Because I don't know that I'm comfortable splitting the cost without seeing a financial report first. And I don't wanna wait until the February meeting to approve this, because I think it's too late. We need to commit now.
I agree with that, it's too late. Yeah.
Matt, are there financials on the past two performances? The expenditure, the budget, the expenditures, and all of the accountings for the past two, or the holiday concert, and then
The holiday concert,
for
yes.
the upcoming dance competition, or dance?
I don't
performance?
know, Jenny Powell handles that one, so I know they're in the process of, and she's been sending receipts and things to Mary Ann, I know that. But I don't, she has a tentative budget that she's operating on. The Christmas show, we've just turned in last receipts, so we have a final financial report. According to Elias, the check refund is here from the Christmas concert from the city of San Gabriel. And in terms of, Mary Ann and I have been talking back and forth about the last two musical budgets. We've got holes in it that we're still trying to fill in. 3 years ago, we do have. So in terms of a pattern, I think, Ken, that you're looking for, we can, in terms of what the various budgets have been, 3, 4, 5 years ago, we kind of have that together. The last two, we're still working on them still. Today I got things from the,
Do we have the estimated income in that budget
for this year, yes.
for this year?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, there is a budget that does not have
Yeah.
actuals, and I think we're talking about two different things. You, Mary Ann, you and the superintendent are looking, are talking about financials from past events, and you've already made it very clear to us that it's not, comprehensive in a manner that would be helpful to us. So let's go with the budget as they have projected it for this year. That's the only thing we have, that's prepared by people who've been doing this for 30 years. So that's the only thing we have.
And we can bring that by tomorrow. I could run up to the high school and print it off and bring it over to you today, if you want. I think you don't want to stay.
I just think we need,
Yeah.
So,
I'm ready to approve the contract, but,
How about trusting your staff that's been doing this for 100 years? How about that? parents act like you're two, like we're all separate entities. We're not. I say sign the contract and pay for the damn thing so the kids can have their musical.
And I totally agree. I think we're just stuck on like how it should be signed. So, Matt, are you good with
I think if
the
you,
motion without that stipulation?
yes.
Okay. All right, so.
Okay,
let's
someone wanna make another motion?
again.
Your same motion?
Sure.
I would like to make the same motion I made earlier, which is to approve what's written on the agenda.
Okay, I'll second that. All right, any further questions or discussion? Samuel?
Yes.
Samuel votes yes. Okay, rest of the board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, opposed? Okay, so the motion,
Abstain.
okay, motion is, 3 ayes,
We don't know how much it's gonna really cost us.
okay,
And we don't know.
no nays and 1 abstention. Okay, motion is approved. Okay, we'll move on to item 23, which is approve the 2018-19 school accountability report cards.
I first want to thank Director Hannah Getty, the principals, and I'm sure the school site classified staff for putting the SARC reports together. Proposition 98 requires all public schools receive state funding to prepare and distribute a school accountability report card. Its purpose is to provide parents and the community with important information about each public school. It highlights student achievement, size of school. There's a copy of each one. Do you have any questions for me regarding it?
Very interesting.
Yes.
The general question is when you say the school's good in terms of things, does that reflect on the number of classrooms we don't have?
No, it doesn't. I think I'll ask, I'm gonna make a comment. No, it does not. The California dashboard ranks us in terms of student performance, green, blue, orange, yellow, red. We're predominantly in all areas, blue and green. Chronic absenteeism we're working on. So that is a measure, they don't use good, but they do rank us in terms of student performance or give us a range. But no, it does not connect it to the number of classrooms we have.
So
Is that-
two separate reports?
No, it's the same report. The SARC report just gives, part of it is the size of the school, number of classrooms.
So theoretically, we need to know where to make this money for any school improvements.
I think he's looking at the school
I'm so
facility
sorry.
good repair status.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Thank you for
I think so.
clarification.
Is that what you're looking at? Yeah.
So the FIT report, Kim, it's a tool designed by the state, and you go into each classroom, meeting space, office space, and you rank different things like windows, electrical, plugs, adequacy, carpet, blinds, those kinds of items, paint. And so then there's a grade, you put it into this computer formula, and then it gives a grade for each school. If you'd like the details, anyone would like it, I'm very happy to share it.
This report does not go to the people who do the report of classroom attitudes we can get every 2 years or something.
Okay, I will double check that. It does, we are required to file this by Prop 98, so it is reviewed for accuracy. And if there's any determination that it's not accurate, we have to address that matter. The cost involved in this is a $3,500 one-time translation cost for templates. Mandarin and Spanish we're taking care of. Future translations will be done in-house as long as the template doesn't change.
And then are we doing anything, what was the average number of Asians in the classroom? 60 is what?
I
Because it
can,
keeps varying every time you look at it.
the report gives a demographic background. I could do a,
But it's by school.
yes, it's by
I know.
school.
They're by school.
But the average
So
is,
why does it matter?
because the Asians are 60-some%. They're over
And?
half of our total. And so what do we do special for age groups? That's the question.
For everything, I can send a copy of the dashboard that breaks down for the overall demographics for you. I can send that out.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments? Would someone like to make a motion to approve receival of the school accountability report cards?
All motion.
We have a
Second.
motion by member Espinosa, second by member Lynn. Our student board member, how do you vote on these?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, rest of the board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, motion passes 4-0. All right, on to the consent calendar.
Well, we have 24.
24.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wrote it in the wrong place, confused myself. Okay, item 24, approved professional development, safety, knowledge, safe lives.
Knowledge Saves Lives is a company that has been recommended to the North County Department of Ed, Waco, a few other, a lot of other schools have used them to help do some of the active threat training on school campuses. They work with a lot of local police departments as well as, some of our federal agencies to develop a program to help our staff better understand what a potential threat may be, but puts them in an environment that's just enough for them to feel what the reality could be like, but not overly mentally taxing and put them in a complete despair or distress situation, as well as to provide some opportunities for them to react in a mock type situation. This is going to be one of the first times a company like this has done a full district-wide training with over 500 people. So this is going to be something that we haven't seen before, or they haven't seen before, or State of California really hasn't seen, that we're aware of. But it does come on the heels of a lot of very significant events that have happened in our recent history, and that we're seeing much more of, and we want to make sure that our staff have the best ability to prepare for. So, Knowledge Saves Lives, basically the considerations here, we look at our facility needs, we're looking at a full day training hosted by Temple City High School. They just did a walkthrough today to see if the facility would be feasible. As I mentioned a little bit earlier today, that training would take place, it'd take about 4 hours in the morning. We would break for lunch and then come back for specialized, individualized instruction in targeted specific safety areas. And as I shared earlier, Mrs. Getty and Mrs. Gomez, the directors, have done a really good job trying to spearhead this and get this out. We're expecting communication to come out very soon if this is approved by the board. The next step for us is communicating with local law enforcement. That would bring in the sheriff's department and potentially other departments within our local agency to help support what that response would look like. We did a bunch of reference checks on this. I personally have been through this training with my staff, receiving positive feedback at previous sites that I've been. We did reach out to 3 other different companies who could potentially provide a similar training. Either they could not handle the scope of Temple City Unified in the time frame we have, or it was too expensive, or it was too long. It could not happen in a period of time where they could work together as a team. So basically our recommendation is that we approve this. Actually, the cost of this contract is $17,000, $950, but it does come from our safety credits, and I would defer to Mary Ann to help explain those. I don't have the knowledge to really share that with you.
There's a certain percentage of our insurance that we pay each year through the JPA that's set aside for safety-related issues. So if we need safety equipment for a staff member or safety equipment for students, we can use that money for that, and this is a perfect match for those requirements. And that won't affect the general fund.
All the schools participate in high school.
As a matter of fact, all of the Tcusd staff will be invited to participate, so not just the teachers at the high school or specific school, everyone as part of this, as well as we will most likely be reaching out to a few of our city officials for them to be a part of it and observe to see what's happening, what we're doing at our school sites.
This is a non-student day when it will take place. Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve this?
All motion.
Okay, motion by member Espinosa, second by member Lynn. Are there any questions, any more questions or comments? Okay. Samuel?
Yes.
Okay, Samuel votes yes. The rest of the board, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes 4-0. Now the consent calendar. Is Anybody have any items they have questions on or want to have pulled? Otherwise, would someone?
I do have 3 items that I want to pull to ask to be able to ask for assessments or questions.
Okay, which items are those?
25, 28, and 31.
Okay. What is your question about number 25?
So 25, in our discussions in the meeting minutes, it doesn't reflect our discussion about board policy 1330 that grants use of facilities and grounds without charge to school-related organizations whose activities directly relate to or benefit district schools. We had a discussion, I think we even read from our materials that piece, Donna, so I would like that added to the minutes, please.
Where was that? What item was that?
That was under, when we were looking at the fee study.
What number is
I,
that?
you know what, I don't have my,
Number 25.
25?
It's not, no, it's not 25.
it's the fee study one.
Oh, number 24.
24, Civic Center Act Facility.
Yes,
Use.
that one.
Okay,
Yeah,
so-
so board policy 1330, we could add the discussion around that and
Okay,
actually list it.
Okay, so we can just put, there was a discussion regarding board policy 1330.
Yes.
Anything else?
No, that was it on that one.
Okay. 28?
28, and I apologize because I typically ask these particular questions in advance, but I will have to ask here. It's related to the purchase orders section on specific lines. I just want to know what line 5 is for 155,000. What is that for?
I'm sorry, did you say
Line 5.
for Scholastic Inc.?
No, it's right here.
It's under purchase
No,
orders.
Oh, contracts,
the
okay.
final site. Or no, Foothill Education and Tech
That's
Partnership.
it. Yes, that's it. What is that? I have a few, but that's one of them. And 155K line 5.
What's that special ed?
Is it?
Oh, no,
I think it
it's
said special
educational
ed.
tech.
This educational technology.
It's like the website.
I don't know, that's why I wanted to make sure.
So that was, okay.
Yeah.
Location 15. What is location 15?
Technology. I have most of the POs back here, give me just a minute.
Oh. It's a consortium of CTOs. The Foothill Consortium.
This is for the district's internet and network support. So there's a consortium that the district joined, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. And so we purchased our network support and internet support as a group with several districts in the surrounding areas. I would have to ask Andy how many districts are in, because I don't recall, but that's what this is related to.
Okay, great, because I don't think I'd seen that. And then lines 10 and 11, Florence Filter Corp. What is Florence Filter Corp?
So this is a service that changes all the air conditioning filters for us in all the classrooms and office spaces.
And line 304, Standard and Poor's 24,000.
So Standard & Poor's is one of the rating agencies that was related to the bond refinancing. And if you look, as you go across the columns, the column where it says 21.1 and it says the fund, that means the expenses through the bond fund.
Okay, 21.1.
21. So there's the first issuance was 21.0. Issuance B is 21.1. With each issuance, we give it another sub number because we have to keep the dollars separate.
Okay. All right, those are all the questions on that, number 28. And then on 31, classified personnel order. I saw there was a request to decrease FTE for employee. And I wanted to know if that was based on our business needs or based on a personal request, because I'm sensitive to, you know, reducing FTE when we don't need to.
A letter or number
It's the last one on that. Classified,
Well,
it's on the first page.
right by decrease in FT 71
Yes,
to 70.
E.
Special ed. Special ed varies because of coverage. At times, like a one-on-one and whatever, and they take a different position, or it reduces a few hours.
So this is the business need reduction,
No.
or because the employee requested it?
You know what, I will double check, but I think it's just, I believe the employee requested it based on change of assignment, and, I can send that back out to you.
Because I know
I'm
we.
sorry, I didn't bring that explanation, but I can't decrease a position. You can't decrease a position without the personnel commission. If you go here, she requested an increase for personal reasons. I'm sorry, I forgot this is attached. So basically, those hours go to a different person, so the number of hours is not decreased.
We're not losing,
No.
okay, because I was gonna say, we
And
just
that's-
have a business
and that's
need, we
a-
don't wanna.
And that's a process, like you can't decrease a position without bringing union approval and personnel commission. So, for each of these, there's an explanation on the second page.
I read it, maybe I just overlooked the fact that,
No, it said
that
that,
it was,
but we all, in special ed, we're these instructional aides, and then we can't use one to
Right.
recommend it.
okay, good, that's what I wanna make sure. Okay, I'm good.
Okay, so would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar with the amendment to the minutes?
I would like to make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion by member Lynn, second by member Espinosa. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Ken?
I made up my mind yet. Well, I have to see this. Because it doesn't give a disclosure in here.
Okay, we're voting right now, so do you want to, okay, so the motion passes 3-0 with one abstention. All right, we'll move on to board requests, comments. Does anybody have any requests or comments?
I
Yes.
still want a financial statement of the actual income and the expenses.
For?
Budget made or not give the money. Not give tax for anything related to the mission playhouse.
Okay,
I would like clarification or discussion about board policy 1330 to make sure we're all on the same page with what that means.
yes, and that kind of goes alongside with my request to have the groundwater request and AYSO request on the next agenda.
Great, yes.
Okay, anything else?
You wanted to change the board bylaw about the.
Oh, yes, so the other thing I wanted to do is to change the board bylaws regarding excusing members for cause. As it is now, it requires us to do a resolution, which is kind of cumbersome, instead of just voting on it. So, but we need to change the board bylaws to be able to do that. And we will, because they haven't been changed yet, we will need a resolution to excuse that at the next meeting. Okay, thank you for reminding me, Marie. Okay, anything else? All right, and let's see, is there any other public comments that would like to be made? Jerry? Okay, all right, so before we adjourn, we are going to reconvene to closed session, just for, we didn't get to quite finish for a few minutes. So would someone like to make a motion to reconvene to closed session?
I'll motion.
Okay, motion by member Nolenberg, second by member Espinosa. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so motion passes. So Samuel, you're welcome to go home. And just a reminder to everybody, we will be adjourning in memory of Don Swanson. So if you're not here, we will do that.